Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging into a truly thought-provoking collection of source material. Our listeners shared articles, research notes.
A real mix.
Yeah, painting a picture of networks, technology, human interaction. It seems way more integrated than most of us probably imagine. So, our mission for this deep dive, we're going to try and unpack these sources. We'll explore what's being called under-the-skin surveillance.
Right.
Look at the race for quantum supremacy.
The big one.
And just understand how deeply interconnected our biological and digital worlds already are, according to this material. Prepare for some maybe aha moments, because the aim here is to show how many concepts we think are futuristic are actually decades in the making, if you believe these sources.
Indeed. We're looking at a convergence, really, biology and technology. And it seems to profoundly redefine our understanding of personal privacy, collective security. The material suggests a reality where concepts like your body is a network node, well, they aren't just theoretical.
They're saying it's active, implemented.
Actively implemented and expanding. That's the picture painted. We'll explore the historical context, the implications. But, it's crucial we remember our role.
Right.
We're here to impartially convey the ideas in the source material. We're not endorsing any particular viewpoint.
Absolutely, just presenting what's been shared.
Okay.
Okay, so the first striking claim, surveillance happening under the skin.
Yeah.
Through something called the Wireless Body Area Network, or WBAN. Can you elaborate a bit on what the sources say WBANs are and why they stress they've been around a while?
Okay, so what's outlined is how the human body itself is seen as a key component.
Like part of the network.
Specifically a node on these vast networks. We're talking beyond, just cell phone towers.
Right.
They trace this evolution of network concepts from the global information grid that was mostly military government data.
Okay.
To the more predictive sentient world simulation aiming to model global events kind of in real time.
Yeah.
And now they refer to DODIN, which suggests, well, maybe an even deeper, possibly biological integration. Pervasive, real-time sensing networks.
So what do these sources tell us about the practical side, the timeline for this under-the-skin stuff?
Well, the material suggests that as far back as 2011.
2011.
Yeah. Electronic health records were being tied into this, using WBAN blockchain for, quote, biomedical purposes.
Blockchain.
Okay. And this reportedly enables the ability to, and this is a quote, log into your body with your own cells under the skin.
Log into your body. Wow.
And they pinpoint the term medical body area network specifically to 2012.
And the sources detail how this data gets accessed. They mention doctors, nurses, using black box technology.
That's right. The sources highlight medical professionals using specialized software. On their phones, apparently.
Their phones.
Yeah, coupled with security devices to access biosignal data from human bodies. This ranges from, managing crucial things like pacemakers, insulin pumps.
Okay, vital stuff.
To broader medical implant communication systems, MICS, which are dedicated wireless frequencies, globally mandated since 1999.
Since 99.
Specifically for secure, reliable communication with medical devices inside the body.
This sounds, way more advanced than what we usually think of as surveillance.
Yeah.
The sources mention ultra-wideband.
UWB, yeah.
For human-body communication since 2005. And even network-centric warfare, targeting bioelectricity via WBAN since then, too.
It's pretty startling stuff.
So how do they suggest this pervasive under-the-skin surveillance compares to, like, getting a real ID or a retinal scan?
Well, the implication from the sources is quite stark. Those visible forms, they pale in comparison.
Right.
That's the claim. They say ultra-wideband. That radio tech for short-range, high-bandwidth, penetrates materials, very precise, has been adapted for human body communication. This level of integration, according to the material, it just fundamentally challenges common ideas about online freedom, especially Web3 peer-to-peer networks.
And they say the internet wasn't built to be truly decentralized anyway.
That's the assertion. That the hardware, the infrastructure, it enables pervasive surveillance.
And they even claim HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, is involved.
Reportedly involved, yes. And that deregulation means it's all proprietary tech.
Meaning?
Meaning the sources claim it makes it impossible to sue the companies using it.
Right, proprietary. Okay. So what does this huge network enable, according to them? They bring up human augmentation.
Yeah, they connect these developments to this broader concept, human augmentation, citing conferences like over 15 years,
Wow.
universities linking it to Agenda 2030 goals. And it's not just, say, better prosthetics.
No.
It's presented as moving towards interoperability with brain-computer interfaces, BCIs.
Brain-computer interfaces.
The material asserts that by 2014, single-brain to single-brain interfaces were already happening.
Already, in 2014.
That's the claim, evolving to single-brain to many brains by 2019.
And how is the body itself pulled into these networks?
Well, a crucial piece, described as the human biofield or nervous system,
The nervous system.
is highlighted as a backbone network for communicating with drones, wireless sensor networks.
So our nerves are the network cable, basically.
That's the analogy suggested. They even claim specific tech like a vagal nerve stimulator from IITC Air Force
Okay.
can turn living tissue into a transistor.
Turn tissue into electronics.
Effectively, yes. They suggest bodies naturally communicate through molecules, but these current systems, they, quote, perturb cell structure. And the claim is made. Telepathic brain-to-brain interface is commercially available.
Commercially available telepathy tech.
Okay.
Given these deep integrations, the sources then look at other ways they monitor us externally.
Yeah.
Human activity recognition radar, HR.
Yes, HER. Discussed as a non-contact technology, they specifically mention Nexar-Red radar.
Isn't that for weather?
Typically used for weather, yeah.
Okay.
But now apparently being explored by the National Weather Service, FAA, Air Force, for human activity recognition.
Human activity.
Well, the claim is it's possible even in, quote, privacy-sensitive environments like bathrooms. Bathrooms. The sources claim monitoring is still happening there, despite, expectations of privacy. It reportedly uses micro-Doppler signals,
Microdoppler.
tiny frequency shifts from movement, and deep learning to classify movements without capturing identifiable biometrics.
So protecting visual privacy, but still monitoring the activity.
That seems to be the idea presented, yes.
And beyond external radar, they also talk about connecting actual biological cells to the internet.
Precisely. They mention intrabayonets research, universities like Nebraska, Georgia Tech, Worcester.
Intrabayonets.
Yeah, focusing on creating self-sustainable, biocompatible network infrastructure based on biological communication, effectively, quote, connecting biological cells to the internet.
Wow.
For what they call the Internet of Bio-Nano things. Think microscopic sensors, actuators, communicating within biological systems, cellular-level data exchange.
Okay, so far we've focused on what's happening in and around the body, traditional networks, cutting-edge networks. But then the sources take this interesting turn. Alternative communication methods. Bypassing Wi-Fi, Bluetooth.
Yeah, this part is fascinating. The material highlights methods like data over sound,
Data over sound.
also known as Sony Talk or Sci-Talk, described as an open protocol. A phone's speaker broadcasts raw waveforms.
Just sound waves.
Right. And another device's microphone picks them up, demodulates them, extracts the data. It reportedly works without internet, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, using FSK, frequency shift keying, basically changing the frequency of a carrier wave to send digital data. The sources claim these systems have full spectrum capability.
Full spectrum. Okay. And then there's free space optical communication, FSOC.
Yeah. Uses light beams, lasers specifically,
Laser.
to transmit info through the atmosphere, even outer space. Research suggests incredibly high speeds, exceeding 1 gigabyte per second, reportedly.
Okay, lasers through the air. And this connects to a pretty provocative claim about atmospheric manipulation, right?
Yes. The sources put forward this theory that the middle layer of the atmosphere is being sprayed.
Sprayed. With what?
With metamaterials. Things like heavy metals, graphene oxide, bacterium, even human plasma, according to the sources.
Human plasma. Why?
The theory presented is that this turns the atmosphere into a kind of 2D metasurface.
A surface in the air?
Yeah, where lasers can bounce off.
Yeah.
Creating controllable, programmable beams. NASA is reportedly modeling this layer in 2D.
And what's the alleged purpose?
According to the material, it's used to target ion channels.
In our cells.
Tiny pores and cell membranes controlling electrical signals, yes. And even, quote, deliver vaccines, implying a direct biological impact from these atmospheric manipulations.
Okay, that's a lot. These alternative methods, the scale of potential surveillance, it brings us to quantum computing.
Right, a critical area.
And our sources highlight this isn't just tech prowess, huge national security implications. They mentioned the Cybersecurity Preparedness Act from December 2022, trying to migrate to post-quantum cryptography, PQC.
Exactly. And the core concern discussed by experts in the sources is harvest now, decrypt later. Meaning the data we think is secure today, PII, health records, military secrets, could already be compromised. Not decrypted yet, but collected.
Collected now.
Yeah. Adversaries playing a long game, storing vast amounts of encrypted info, just waiting for quantum computers in, say, 10 to 20 years to crack it open.
That really shifts things.
Yeah.
Data isn't safe just because it's encrypted now.
It fundamentally shifts how we view data longevity, vulnerability, severe ramifications possible for military ops, personal privacy.
And this raises the big question about the quantum race itself. The sources suggest China might be ahead.
That's a strong suggestion in the material, yes,
Yeah.
that China's gone silent on their progress, raising concerns they might be leading. The material claims China gained access to U.S. advancements via IP theft. And by training tens of thousands of physicists, an effort the U.S. is reportedly not matching.
What about AI's role here? And finance? Bitcoin?
The material suggests AI will be incredibly useful for breaking encryption, more so than other quantum aspects, and yeah, finance. A direct claim that quantum could break the encryption of Bitcoin.
Break Bitcoin.
Rendering its value to zero, according to this view, because of immutable transactions and no FDIC-like protection.
Wow, okay. The forces also mention challenges for the U.S. workforce, leadership.
They do, pointing to a need for a national cyber director with real, deep technical expertise and concerns about universities, maybe not vetting foreign students sufficiently, students who might gain quantum knowledge then compete against the U.S.
But they do note some U.S. strengths. Innovation.
That's right. The material highlights the vibrant startup community, leveraging fundamental research from national labs Oak Ridge, Los Alamos, Sandia.
Okay.
And it touches on different approaches, like IBM's superconducting qubits, measuring artificial atoms in superposition 0 and 1 at the same time.
Fascinating. And one of the most compelling potential benefits they discuss is healthcare.
Yeah, this is interesting. The sources state quantum computers could rapidly predict drugs.
How?
Specifically, how drugs bind to proteins. Exponentially faster, extreme accuracy. It could just dramatically accelerate developing future therapeutics, drug discovery.
Okay, so huge potential upside too. Now this next section seems to connect a lot of these threads. Human augmentation again, but maybe a closer look.
Right.
Our sources cite IEE publications back in 2014, claiming, quote, "We will end disability by becoming cyborgs," and that neural interfaces and prosthetics will do away with biology's failings.
Yeah, it's described as a definite move towards a cyborg age. Engineers building electronic systems communicating directly with the human nervous system.
And while it's often framed as, treating ailments,
there's a more controversial claim presented, that deep brain stimulation is ultimately about behavior control.
for economic sectors.
That's the claim made in the sources, yes, for economic purposes.
And the timeline they suggest for this integration, it's pretty striking.
Very. The material states that by 2064, neuroengineers might be fluent enough to mimic the electrical language the brain uses
They make the brain's language.
to govern our movements, moods, and memories. And this is put in the context of AI existing since the 1950s, implying a long, deliberate progression.
One of the most arresting claims here is that our understanding of human biology itself has been deliberately hidden or stolen to make all this possible. What's the thinking there?
Well, the underlying idea suggested is a long-term, maybe covert agenda to integrate human physiology with technology, kind of evolving our definition of human without broad public awareness or consent. They assert there's no way to turn this back or off, that humans are, quote, hooked to that cloud through the National Science Foundation Backbone Network,
Hook to the cloud.
with government entities reportedly logging in under your skin for biocybersecurity, and even harvesting body energy for sensors since 1959.
Since 1959.
Eh.
Harvesting energy.
That's the specific claim in the material.
Which leads directly to a point about consent, or rather, the lack of it.
A profound lack, according to these sources. They state explicitly that decision makers are not interested in ethicists or public opinion on human augmentation.
Not interested.
That's the claim. And that individuals don't get a choice. You're just upgraded for health, for monitoring.
And the material even gets into targeted individuals as a consequence of this.
It does. Describing them as people who feel remotely controlled, often labeled crazy, the material presents a very specific narrative about melanin's role in electromagnetic control.
Melanin.
Yes, citing the Myron May case as an example of what they call a randomized controlled clinical trial of DARPA on their own people.
Wow, that's a heavy claim.
Extremely. They also mention Russia's past warnings to the U.S. about electromagnetic radiation from cell tech, leading to things like the Moscow Embassy event, 1962 to 73.
What happened there?
Pulsed microwave devices reportedly caused health issues, blood cancers, things like that.
The sources also point out a kind of paradox about emerging technologies.
Yeah, this is interesting. While emerging usually means, not quite here yet.
Right, still developing.
The sources argue technologies like AI, 3D printing, CRISPR, nanotech, which they trace back to Feynman in 1959.
269.
That's the claim. Robotics, augmented reality. They're presented as new or emerging, but the sources say they're actually commercially available, decades in development.
So the deliberate obfuscation, hiding known business and industry.
That's the suggestion, yes.
Which brings us back, full circle almost, to the body as a network.
Exactly. The sources stress. Human body communication uses the body as the transmission medium.
The body is the medium.
With the nervous system as your transmission medium for the transport layer in the Internet of Medical Things, IOMT.
Internet of Medical Things.
Basically, yeah, a network of connected medical devices, sensors. And the claim is made that medical professionals were told to stay quiet about these existing technologies.
Told to be silent.
That's what the sources allege. Even though the market for WBAN, remote health monitoring, is apparently in the billions.
So putting this all together,
Mm-hmm.
what does this entire deep dive imply for you, the listener?
Well, the sources insist you are not decentralized. Quite the opposite. You're more enmeshed than you've ever been.
Enmeshed.
They contend you've been lied to about the true nature, the long existence of these systems, which are reportedly operating commercially since 1995.
Since 95.
And are mandated worldwide, according to the material. The ultimate message seems to be, you are the network. You're the node, constantly emitting signals, and that awareness of your human biofield, its electrical nature.
That's key.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has certainly offered a profound, maybe unsettling perspective, the intersection of biology, technology.
Definitely.
We've explored claims of widespread body area networks, the high stakes of the quantum race, and this provocative idea of humanity entering a new phase. Augmentation, control.
And the sources consistently emphasize, don't they? These systems aren't coming.
They have been here for many years. Developed through extensive research, commercial deployment, what often feels futuristic is, in many ways, presented as already a present reality, impacting healthcare, national security, everything.
So here's a final thought then for you to mull over. If, as these sources claim, the network is you, and your own body is molecularly, quantumly faster than all their other systems, what are the implications, the profound implications for your personal autonomy, your decision-making, in a world where technology is maybe intentionally deeply integrated into human anatomy, often without explicit consent?
It's a heavy question. The sources challenge us, really, to move beyond what they call circular arguments and distractions, and instead, quote, take back your anatomy by understanding its inherent electrical nature. The ultimate message from these sources seems to be one of self-education, confidence in your own biology.